Right, are we ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, so 1,
2,
3.
Right, okay then. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome out to the Gaming Book Club. Forgot the name of the show then for a second. I am, of course, your host, Gizmo.
Right?
Oh, it's been a long day. It's been a long day. And I'm joined, as always, by Massive Dash Chris Bengali.
Hello, everyone.
And the Peter James of Morrish.
Hi guys.
And this month, or well, August, because delays, we are going to be talking about Lost Child, as chosen by Peter James Morrish. So if you could just tell us what Lost Child is, Pete.
So, in a nutshell, The Lost Child is a first-person dungeon crawler done by the same guys who did El Shaddai, I believe it was, on PlayStation 3 and I think Xbox One. But long story short, basically it's the idea of the Chosen One, and you play as the Chosen One, trying to stop the apocalypse by essentially enslaving plenty of demons, archangels, and angels to your will to try and basically defeat God. That's the nutshell, I guess.
Solid title. If you can't tell, it is Japanese as well. So.
a little bit Japanese.
So, obviously, Pete's choice. This was this month. God, I really don't have to speak today. And Pete, you've played it. What, say 70 hours? You said something like that.
About 65 hours I've played. I haven't completed it yet. Actually, I'm still playing it. I'm on the last dungeon.
Nice.
You must have thoroughly side quests and everything.
Honestly, I haven't done lots of side quests. There's still tons of extra side quests and extra characters to create, and an entire battle dungeon arena to go through, which has 100 floors. I've only done 10 of those, so there's tons more content I haven't touched. It's just I was trying to get through the main story.
And obviously, Chris doesn't believe in side quests, so he would.
I've seen the trophy lists for Spider-Man. It looks quite doable, apart from depending how many side quests and that there are.
I actually have a bet on with one of our friends how many hours of that game you're going to play. So we'll talk about that another time. But there is a bet about how many hours you're going to play of that game. So The Lost Child. Was it The Lost Child or was it Lost Child?
It's The Lost Child, I believe.
The Lost Child. So obviously it came out on PS4, Vita, and Switch.
Right?
So obviously I only played I could only rent it basically essentially for 5 hours. So I played 5 hours on Switch. My dreaded Switch, which only lets me down. And I think Chris has played about the same, right? About 5 hours?
I think it was 3 hours in the end.
Oh, Chris.
Yeah, I explained why.
3 hours? Jesus.
It might be similar to you, Dave. So when you get to me, I kind of explain why.
Yeah, of course. So, I suppose Pete's going to have the most to talk about. So we'll start with me, because I never start with me. Because it's weird to transition into myself, isn't it? But so The Lost Child, it's okay. It's it's really hard to review for me because I review. If anyone's read any of my Nintendo stuff, I'm basically the one that has to review all the bloody dungeon crawling JRPGs. I must have reviewed 6 of those, Chris, now something stupid. All the Vita, almost always on the Vita, and Lost Child is on the Vita. I think the impact of the game is probably a little bit less for me than it would be for certainly Pete, maybe to a slightly lesser extent Chris. I'll start with the positives, really. I think the cutscene art style in general, performance is really good, especially on the Switch screen. It looks really clear, looks really nice. If it was more of a visual novel, I think it would be really successful that way because it just look really good in the cutscenes. And I like the way the story's kind of set up. It's somewhat interesting that your character's an investigator. Even once you get the Pokemon power, he's still an investigator, which is cool, instead of just suddenly becoming the Chosen One, if that makes sense. My big issues with it, really, to be honest with you, my main issues are the dungeons, as lovely and as awesome gameplay wise as they are fucking ugly. They look like PS2 graphics. I'm guessing it's because it's just a Vita port. That's my only thought. They didn't want to redesign the dungeons, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
because they're 3D models, so it does look kind of crappy, to be honest with you. And there's way too much fan service. But I've played a lot of these games, so it's quite toned down really compared to what I'm used to. But still, I'm fed up of seeing booby Japanese angels. You know what I mean? When you played one game that's like that, it's just oh god, another. Yeah, exactly. So, other than that, I really like the monster collecting. Overall, it is, like you said, Pete, or like we'll probably say, it's very Pokemon-esque. It's very Persona-esque. The design of the characters are very, very Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing. You can tell what they are immediately. You can tell like what kind of like element they are and all that stuff. And the battle system itself is really deep, as you would expect from a JRPG. And I like this sort of throwback action command thing in the corner where it tells you like what it's doing. It's not very elaborate or pretty, but I just like that because it's a lot of the classic games in the genre do that. So yeah, I think overall it's a pretty decent game. It's just for me, because I've played it a lot of games similar. It's just not very spectacular, and I don't think the slow intro helps. I think the first hour and a half is pretty laborious for a new player. But yeah, that's basically my overall thoughts on my 5 hours, really, to be honest. So, Chris, what did you think of your 3 hours?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. It's not a genre I've played too often. I've sort of dabbled. The best one would be like Severed that I've played in the genre, in that sort of genre. Played a bit of Entry Odyssey, like demos and things like that, and it's just a bit like the dungeons are just bland. Obviously, it's just like the same corridor all the way through, and you're saying the game's not spectacular. I've not looked at its Metacritic, but I want to guess it's like on the, like 65 or 7s or 70s and that. Like, it's not a bad game. It ran well. The voice acting isn't horrendous. The art is good. The combat system is good, but it doesn't do anything to go, wow, you want to play this game for 70 hours, which obviously it must have for like Pete, but for me and you, it didn't.
For the record, it's 64.
Right, so it was quite good with quite a good guess from me there. Yeah, plus obviously you could only rent it for like 5 hours. I also picked it up on Switch because it was actually the cheapest option, which is quite surprising because the Vita is only a download in Europe, and I obviously can't read Japanese, so I couldn't buy the physical version. So I bought it on Switch, and that was like the one of my problems was that it was on Switch.
Why was that a problem?
I've just like lost enthusiasm for that system, and I know Pete obviously just recently got a Switch. That's why he wanted to play a Switch game. If I maybe had bought it on PS4 or played it on if it was on Xbox One, I might have been more enthused to play the game. Like obviously,
for me, if it was on Vita, I think I would have played it more.
Yeah, I might have played it more as
but
well.
I think the big problem. Don't think it's worth £50.
No,
I think that's. I mean, a lot of the games.
Actually,
similar.
that's where I step in. Actually, that's where I actually would say no. I do think it's worth it because the amount of time I've spent and the amount of content that they have in the game is worth the. I spent £48. I would say. I mean, I spent 65 hours so far. I would say it's worth the money.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. I think the problem is, for a game that average, you're either going to like it or you're not. So I think it's for. I think £50. If I were a developer for that game, I think £50 is too much of a gamble. If that makes sense. I think if it was 35, then I think even someone that might not initially like it might be more likely to jump in. If that makes sense, especially digitally. Like physically for £50, I can understand.
Yes.
On the Vita, even on the Vita, I think it's $49.99.
Well,
which is just
I'll go over
ridiculous.
why I do I mean, there's points I totally agree with you guys, but I'll explain mine if you're ready for it.
Yeah, let's go.
Cool. So again, I've played 65 hours of this game. I've literally not finished the campaign. I haven't touched all the side quests. I would say content-wise, there's a fuck ton of content here. I played it on hard because I heard normal was too easy. So I'll go for some gripes first, and then I'll kind of explain the positives afterwards. So the big gripes are the difficulty is not consistent. So the average battles are quite easy, but the final bosses will definitely test you. And on normal mode, I've heard the entire game is quite easy. I totally agree with what you're saying, Dave and Chris, about the art style for the dungeons being quite boring and lackluster. Definitely there, they could have done a lot more with that. Also, generally, if you've played, you play it basically, you realise you can evolve your sort of demons or fallen angels or angels, and their first initial evolution is just a colour palette swap, which is a bit meh. Also, I found generally that there's quite a lot of grinding in this game, which, don't get me wrong, I quite like grinding, but I'd say there's a lot of grinding. You have to really like the grind for an RPG like this to really get into it. I'd say they're the three things that I think I generally found were a bit of an issue. Oh, and also the story is not spectacular. So it's not like a mind-blowing story, which I feel if this game had a really mind-blowing story would definitely elevate it. It's kind of a bit like, okay, Chosen One is chosen, he's going to defeat the evil, which in this case actually turned out to be God, which is called Ra, which of course, if you know your Egyptian gods, is the god of sun. But apart from, like I said, they're negatives. The positives to this game are, the big one is the collecting of monsters. So I presume, correct me if I'm wrong, did you guys only see the demons?
I think pretty much. I only saw
I
the
think
really
I got
Shimogane Tensei looking
I
demons,
was
the
gonna
ones that have got like fish with skeleton bodies and stuff like that.
I had
Yeah, so the
a dude
demon.
on my team that looked like a human dude, so I presume he's some sort of angel, an archangel or something.
Ah, you're on about Entourage. No, he's still a demon, actually. They
Okay.
actually say if they're fallen angel, demon, or angel. The demons are quite common at the start. Then you get introduced to the fallen angels and eventually the angels. I think the angel's the most boring. I love the fallen angel design. It's really stylized. All the monsters and all the characters you'll come across have roots in mythology. So whether it's like Mephistopheles or I can try and find another one that I've got here right now. Well, I guess there's Nakopu Tentkei, which is like a Japanese style monster. There's a lot of
I saw
roots.
there's Lovecraft ones as well, so like Cthulhu and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's Cthulhu. There's a huge Cthulhu mythos sort of in this game. You're right, but with Cthulhu, of course, with the god of yellow, the king of yellow. What's his fucking name again? Let's have a quick look. Because when you beat basically the demon lords, they become unlockables as your party. I've yet to unlock any of them, but they are there. Yeah, Hasta, that's it, Hasta, and you've got Dagon, which again, Lovecraftian characters, and they're sort of the first villains you meet, and as you go through, you realise they're not the big bads. But there's, I'd probably say, maybe 100 different characters to correct, maybe 150 different enemies. And the final forms of all these characters are really interesting. So like Pokemon, they finally evolved into something good. So like, I think that's the problem. I think you have Charmander and then you have Charizard. They fucking miss out on Charmeleon. That's the problem here. I feel if you could do that, if they had done a bit more to the art style for the middle ones, it'd have been far more interesting. But yeah, they do a really good job, I feel, with the typing, of course, kind of doing a rock, paper, scissors combat movement with 5 typings. It works well. Again, it follows a lot of the Pokemon sort of, mechanics that have already been put in place. When you play the game, of course, you might have found this. If you play it on hard, your psychic, aka Luna, aka Titsy McGee, is absolutely fucking shit for about 5 to 6 hours of the game. Only in the later game does she actually become useful with some really good electric moves.
Yeah,
so she's basically your big. It's a shame that she wasn't useful earlier. She's basically your big-titted Pikachu. Nice. She finally comes in handy. But I loved some of the later character designs. I generally felt the combat itself was quite compelling. So I mean that's why I've kept playing it. I was like, okay, well, I enjoy the idea of leveling up my characters, and I really like the way they kind of turned the, I guess, Pokemon experience bar on its head. So normally, of course, if you play games like Pokemon, you know the Pokemon you have in your fight are the ones that gain experience. In this situation, it gets karma, and karma is either good, bad, or neutral, and that depends on how you rank up your creatures. And I like the fact that you could allocate that karma and experience to any creature you wanted, whether they were fighting or not. So say you had one that you were fighting with but didn't actually like its design, or you didn't think it fit well with your party, you could play with it for a while, and then you think, okay, well now I've got enough karma, I'll level up, I know a demon that I feel is going to be something, going to be one of my party members for a later fight. Also on hard mode, which is what I played it on, the bosses actually were an interesting challenge. You had to think about your typings, you had to think about support moves as well as aggressive moves and defensive moves. One little key thing they did that I really quite liked was when you died, unlike say Pokemon and other games like Etra and Odyssey, you have to restart the entire game. This was a bit softer. It allowed you kind of 2 other options, which is one, if you had karma, you could go back before the fight. So if you knew it was too hard, you could kind of back out. And the other, which I never seem to have enough money in the game, but if you had enough money, you could restart that fight. Which
that
I
might be
like
hard mode talking though. They do that a lot in other games.
I found out it was normal as well. They had the same
really?
same parameters for both normal and hard, which is quite cool. Though I like that. If it was really nice. There was one thing I didn't like about the evolution stages, though, one last gripe, I guess, which is unlike Pokemon, for example, where when you're leveling up, you're gaining moves. So, like level, Dave probably could correct me on this, but Pikachu learns like Thunderbolt at level like 30, for example.
I think it used to be 26 or 28, but whatever. It's been 20 years.
Exactly. But in this game, the moves are unlocked randomly. So you could have, I've had one character that unlocked nothing, the whole time I play with him, and another a character that has unlocked 7 or 8 moves. That I kind of feel was a bit strange.
So from what you're saying, so it's kind of, I suppose the biggest context, you've never really played a game like this before, have you? And I love that a lot of the reviews say that. I know you've played. Is it Etrian Odyssey 4, right?
4, yeah. Which is which again, okay, it does basically it does first person dungeon crawling better.
Yeah. A lot of the reviews that I just checked the reviews while we were looking at Metacritic. They're very split. Actually, it's really funny. But a lot of the ones that are positive say it's very good for beginners, and what you're talking about does sound like
beginners.
That. It sounds like it is quite good for beginners.
Totally. Yeah,
I can totally see that. To be fair,
yeah. So I would say, if you haven't played lots of first-person dungeon crawlers and you want a bit of a grind and you like the concept of Pokemon and collecting monsters, this is a great game for you. If you're maybe like yourself, Dave, a veteran of first-person dungeon crawlers who want maybe a more interesting story, it probably isn't going to be tickle your biscuit.
Tickle my biscuit, I love it. I think, to be honest, if you've got a Switch right now, this is your best option.
I can't think of anything. Severed is on the Switch, but I can't think of anything.
Severed's not very similar. Severed's only similar that it's a first-person dungeon. The combat is obviously completely different, and the story is completely different, and that kind of thing. But Severed's a great game. But
that's the only thing I can actually think of on the Switch that's similar.
I think there's stuff like Atelier that's out on it that's somewhat similar, but not that similar. And I'm sure there'll be the Demon Gaze games will almost certainly come to it. The new Tokyo games will almost certainly come to it because NIS will put everything on the Switch now.
Yeah.
Like I said, my only concern, if you were to get into the genre, is it's a lot of money to put down because the other games are. If you've got a Vita, you can buy 10 or 11, maybe 20 games that are better for a lot cheaper. Same with PS4. Definitely not the same with Xbox, but
I kind of feel this sort of suits it. The Switch is the perfect platform.
Yeah, I think the Switch and the Vita are where this game would shine, 100%. Yeah. I think having it handheld.
See, I also play it on TV, not on handheld.
Yeah, I think that would just, especially on a TV of yours, would really exacerbate the issues with the dungeons.
Yeah.
I think on the handheld it's not so bad, and I think it's clearly not built for it. It was clearly built for Vita and PS4. And then ported to the Switch, and what I mean, it's clearly one build. It's not 3 separate builds. If that makes obviously I'm talking in game dev chat here because Pete's here, but you know what I mean. It's not they haven't done new assets for every game. Clearly, they've done a game that runs on all these platforms. And I say it's only the dungeons that look crap. The monster design, the art, everything else looks fine. It's just the actual dungeons. I just wonder why they weren't pre-rendered. To be honest with you, I just don't understand.
They could have been a lot more interesting as well. If they'd just seen Etrian Odyssey 4, for example, seeing some of the main boss monsters roaming around, seeing the lavish, art styles and whatnot, and that's a 3DS game.
Well, El Shaddai is beautiful, so it's bizarre that would be the gripe that you to be had with it, really. But I think because this is going to be a very weird episode. You'll see, it's the most one-sided episode we've done so far, I think. But I think to be honest, it's just landed on a horrible time. The price has obviously cost me being able to play it for very long because I could only afford to rent it, and for Chris it being on the Switch right now. How many Vita games did you buy last month, Chris? 40
15
Vita games, 20, 15 Vita games. So you know what I mean. So
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Chris got a problem. So.
Oh yeah, but I sold all my Switch stuff, pretty much.
Oh, you've just got the console, haven't you?
I got the console and I got the 2 Zelda Universe games on it.
I can't wait for the GNamer forum to get hold of that info. And
well, they know. They do know.
The abuse that's coming, but so let's get our ratings in because so it's my favourite part of the show, Pete. To be honest, so it's everyone's favourite part of the show. Is our rating system. So okay, we'll start with me. I'm going to give Lost Child on the Switch the first 5 hours anyway, the trial version. I'm going to give it 6 squiggly muffins out of 10.
Ooh.
And so Chris, what would you give it?
5.5 out of 10.
That's harsh.
Oh no, I'm just
But-
trying to think. 5 is down.
Again, you played it 3 hours, so it wouldn't register on Metacritic.
From what I
put it that way.
played, fairly, average. If we're going 5, is the most, is average.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it not being the first game that I've played like that is what's cost it to be. I think if it was my first game in the genre, I think it would be a little bit better. But 50 quid for a game that I've played 10 better of. That's my point. And obviously, Pete, what is your score?
So, I mean, obviously, because I have not played the level of first-person dungeon crawlers that you have, Dave. So, I mean, for me personally, I'm going to be serious this time, actually. I'm going to give it 7.5 out of 10. I know there's better first-person dungeon crawlers out there. I feel this game has something special in its kind of its Pokemon mechanic. And I feel if you like some really interesting kind of monster designs done quite well, and a good turn-based strategy game, then it's worth picking up. I'd say if you want a heavy, deep story, that's going to really blow your balls off, don't go for it.
Yeah, I think on the Switch, for recommendations, because obviously this is quite a short episode, so we can do recommendations. I think for Switch, it's if you want the first person, that's a really good game. I think I Am Setsuna, Octopath Traveler, stuff like that. Even maybe not quite Lost Sphere, Disgaea 5, those kind of games will probably be a little bit more value right now. I think if Lost Child, if you can get Lost Child for around 35, I think that's really good. I think that's a really good purchase, especially if you haven't played those type of games. For similar games, for you, Pete, if you were going to go out today and buy another game like that, I would very much recommend the Persona Q series, which I think you would really enjoy because it's everything you don't like about The Lost Child is improved. So graphically it's beautiful. There still has the monster collecting. It is still pretty hard, and it's the characters are really well written and stuff. So nice. Persona Q would be definitely my recommendation.
See,
for this
I really want that to be ported to Switch because I know it's on 3DS.
There is a second
DS.
one coming out. I'm not sure if that's
3DS
Switch.
as well.
Is it 3DS? They'll port them
God damn
both.
it, Nintendo! Stop doing this.
They'll port them both. Atlas aren't stupid.
Oh,
And obviously,
I think
Pete hasn't played
Atlas has
Persona,
Atlas
so
has basically ported like almost anything to the Switch at the moment. So.
exactly. But play Persona 5, Pete.
I want it. It's on my list, and I know that will probably kind of change or sway my thing. I'm glad I played this maybe before Persona 5 because I feel if I played Persona 5, from what people have told me, it might have changed my view on this. I feel this is like a really great starter.
It's a perfect new console game as well.
Yeah,
Completely different type of game on a handheld hybrid.
I played probably a good 60 out of the 65 hours on Switch on the handhold mode.
Nice.
Because that's how I feel it should be played.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree, 100%. So that's very much a truncated August episode. We're all pretty tired as well, which is quite funny. But hey, it is what it is. This is the second round. We have September as the last of the second round, so it's good.
Yep.
But for the next month, it's Chris's choice. So what are we playing, Chris?
We are playing. It's just been ported to the Xbox One, PS4, and PC, so you can play it on Steam and that. And we're playing Shimyu.
Yes, the cult classic from the Dreamcast. So we'll see if that still holds up. Obviously, no Chris opinions right now because it's not like it's his favourite game of all time or anything. So it's fine. The podcast. It's been a weird one. I'll be honest. This is going to be weird to edit because they always are. But if you enjoyed this very weird truncated version of a gaming book club, please check out our other shows, Pot of War. Check out Chris's Guilty Spark. Check out Captain Dinosaur Games on Twitter. I'm your host, Eworth Gizmo. I've enjoyed it. Say goodbye there, Mr. Pengelly.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye, Mr. Peter James Marsh.
Thank you very much, guys.
And we'll see you all next month. Bye.
Yeah, see you next month.
Bye.
Bye now.